Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt, reporting for the Sin Bin, and I just wanted to bring to you a story that happened just a few hours ago, and that involves the former Montreal Canadiens player that claims that playing for the team was like being in kindergarten. And that player in question is none other than Nikita Scherbak. So, Nikita Scherbak, let me give you guys a little bit of insight on who he was and what expectations were for him. So, he was a first-round draft pick, 26th overall, right behind David Pastrnak in the 2014 NHL draft. He's 23 years old, and I remember when he first got drafted, I know that, 26 isn't a really high position, but nonetheless, expectations were really high for this player. I was one of those people who thought that he was going to be really good. They compared him to Jake Voracek. They said he was going to be high risk, but very, very high reward. And I know that Trevor Timmins was aiming a home run when he drafted this player. But I don't really want to talk about the player itself. He's very disappointing. He came into training camp. He wasn't hardworking. He never worked hard. He didn't have the good attitude. And that led to his demise in Montreal. He eventually went to the Los Angeles Kings, played 8 games, got only 1 goal, and they sent him down to the AHL. Now, Nikita Scherbak is currently contracted with a Russian team in the KHL, and he was talking to some Russian reporters, and he had some choice words to say about the Montreal Canadiens management. Now, let me just say, I'm not one of those people, one of those fans who will blindly defend the Montreal Canadiens management no matter what they do. Whether it be Marc Bergevin, whether it be Claude Julien, whether it be Trevor Timmins even. If they do something wrong, I will criticize them. Now that being said, Nikita Scherbak is acting like a little fucking baby. Look at this face. I mean, just look at him. He is blaming all the unfortunate things that have happened to him. He is blaming it on the management when he should be pointing the fingers to himself. Before I go on further at that, let me just read some of the words that he said. So, let's see here. He says, "They didn't let me play in Montreal. I was patient, but in the end, my nerves gave out, and I asked to be traded. I understand it's just a business. I wanted to stay in Montreal as long as I could." So, I believe Nikita Scherbak when he says that he wanted to stay in Montreal. I truly believe it. Russians have a tendency to like Montreal for some reason. Maybe it has a really European feel, the city. But he also has a girlfriend there who's from Montreal, the area. I believe when he says he wanted to stay in Montreal. The only problem is when this player, Scherbak, is whining and complaining that the team didn't let him play in Montreal. Listen, Nikita. Perform. Be hardworking, have a good attitude, and then you would play in Montreal. They gave you enough chances. You didn't perform, you didn't work hard, you didn't move your legs, you never came to any training camps ready. There was always seemed to be a player that was better than you. So don't fucking come and complain and do an interview and start complaining about management. You failed. It's your fucking fault. Fucking crybaby. He goes on to say, "The higher-ups at the club forced me to train through the summer, and I lived with a strange family." Oh, poor little baby. He's a professional athlete and he had to train through the summer. Oh, I feel sorry for this guy. He goes on, "I was 19 and was ordered to be home by 10, 11 on the weekends. This sounds like kindergarten to me," says Scherbak. Now, this is something that a lot of teams do. They give certain rules that may seem stringent, that may not seem rational. They say you have to be home by a certain hour. They say you can't drink alcohol for some instances. I remember the Philadelphia Flyers a couple of years back. They made a pact that, you know what, let's stop drinking alcohol. And the teams abided by it, and they bonded, and they went all the way to the Cup final. So, teams, management, give certain rules that you may not like, Nikita, but you have to follow it. Don't look at me with those fucking eyes, you. You just have to follow the rules and stop fucking complaining about it. And the fact that you were never willing to go with it, the fact that you were never willing to abide by it, is why you're not playing in the NHL now. Let me stress this, guy. This player had all of the talent in the world. He had the stick handling ability. He had the vision. He had everything to succeed in the NHL. The one thing that was missing from him was the work ethic. He never showed up to work. He never showed up to play. And he's never going to improve because he's never going to look at himself in the mirror and say, hey, look, I'm not performing. He's just going to be blaming everyone around him in the management. Now, this is the real controversial part of the interview. He says, I think actions speak for themselves. There are a lot of francophones, a lot of Quebecois boys. They don't even attempt to speak English, so they just speak French. But we were told we weren't allowed to speak Russian. Why? What's so bad about that? Now, if this is true, what Scherbak says, if there's a bias towards Russians, then I could see where he's coming from. Then again, it's his side of the story. I don't know how it actually went down in the locker room. I would have to be a fly in the wall on that locker room. I would have to see it firsthand. But if what he's saying is true, and I don't really believe him because he's speaking out of emotion here, so I don't really take everything he says as gospel, then yeah, that sucks that the Quebecers got to speak French and you weren't allowed to speak Russian. But guess what? Your GM gives you rules. You abide by it. Stop fucking whining. I hate players that whine like this. The article goes on. They say, whether or not this is an indictment on the Habs culture or just an isolated incident, it's clear that Scherbak felt these things or else he wouldn't have mentioned them. Now, let me say also, in Montreal, there's always been sort of a Russian bias. Or so the rumors go. And this is more pertaining to Claude Julien as opposed to Michel Therrien. But I know there's a year where the Montreal Canadiens just got rid of all of their Russian players. Markov, Radulov. I know that Galchenyuk is born in U.S., but he's a Russian player. Galchenyuk, Sergachev. I don't know if there's any Russian players on the team currently. So that's kind of always been a Russian bias. I think that's just a coincidence. It's a coincidence that they don't have Russian players on the team. But when it comes to Nikita Scherbak, it's not a bias. It's not a conspiracy against you, you girly-headed fuck. You didn't play well. You didn't perform. Take responsibility of your actions. Now, he didn't just have choice words for the Canadiens. As I mentioned, he had a stint with the Los Angeles Kings. And he didn't have really kind words for them either. He said, when I was put into the third line in the Los Angeles Kings AHL team, while they played a tough guy D on the second line, I realized I needed to leave because Kings clearly weren't interested in me. And the coach's system was awful. And again, this goes back to the other thing I was saying. If they're playing a goon defenseman on the second line over you, it's because you didn't warrant it. You didn't earn it. This is just a lesson for all players out there. You can have all the talent in the world. You are not going to make it to the big leagues unless you work hard. And Nikita Scherbak didn't make it because he didn't work hard. And he deserves everything that has come to him since. I wish you luck in the KHL, Nikita, but I don't think it's even going to pan out there because you're a pussy. My name is Matt. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe to my channel. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.